2013, philanthropist Eugene Hobson tried to bootstrap as many of the working poor and unemployed in Night City up to better economic standings as he could. The biggest problem, as he saw it, was a lack of experience in a trade and a lack of opportunity due to their current financial crisis. Hobson bought a mid-size office building that had gone out of business, refurbished it into a facility that could handle large numbers of prospective temp employees per day, threw out placards and advertising everywhere, and started business. When Eugene died in 2015 of coronary heart disease, his son, Michael, himself a respected businessman, took over the company. Looking at the financial records, he found that Street Temps was not only not making money, it was a serious drain on the resources of Hobson Enterprises. Michael didn't want to close the company down. It was a good PR machine, but he knew it wasn't going to succeed with its current modus operandi. The first thing he did was to assign his executive assistant, a Harvard business grad, as the operations officer of Street Temps. He expanded the jobs database to include more professional postings and secretly undertook another project based upon the street culture and the freelance operatives the media were calling Edgerunners. He also knew that there was no centralized way of getting hold of them. Corpos usually worked with a single set of runners that they had come to trust, or tried to get in touch with a team or operative through a fixer. This was tricky, as you might not get what you needed or wanted. What was needed, Michael reasoned, was a temp agency for Edgerunners, a way to match up teams and operatives with jobs that were suited not only to their skills, but their temperament. Such an agency would have to be net-based, of course, so it can be tied back to him. Michael set his people to work, and early in 2016, a new database opened for business, one not advertised in scream sheets. This database didn't even have a name at first, but in the solo bars and the back streets, the rumors spread and the word got out. If you needed work and weren't all that particular about knowing who you worked for or what you did, there was a new place to find jobs. Of course, the ties to Street Temps were very quickly found by netrunners, content to leave the database alone. After all, Street Temps was performing a useful service. Many even helped upgrade the system's net security. In 2017, an unnamed netrunner smashed into the database. Looking around, he is said to have commented, "What the hell? This is a bleedin' Edgerunners Incorporated." He then jacked out just before getting stomped by a local net jockey. The name spread, and now everyone calls the shadow database Edgerunners Incorporated, even the folks at Street Temps. Despite having been originally developed by a fourth-tier corporation with limited resources, Edgerunner Incorporated computer defenses are state-of-the-art and very formidable. Several high-quality netrunners have volunteered to upgrade their defenses. It is rumored Spider Murphy and Rash Bartmoss himself have been involved. Some of the top edgerunners in the database include Lynx, aka Alinda Korolev. The February 19th, 1997 cover of Newsweek magazine features an award-winning photograph of a little girl gripping a melted polymer one-shot pistol. She is staring wide-eyed around the ruins of Coney Island after 3 days of rioting destroyed the neighborhood. The girl is emaciated and filthy, bleeding from a deep gash in her forehead. The streets are lined with rubble, and the body of a dead cop can be seen in the background. The accompanying story, America, the end is here, discussed how the US was falling apart. Linda Korolev was that little girl. Lynx entered the booster hardcore scene in her pre-teens, by age 17, and most of her old set were dead or doing hard time. New gangs had taken over the area, and the final blow came when Lynx's brother was chainsawed to death by the Givers of Pain. With the invasion of Brazil still underway, Linda joined the army and was assigned to the 1st Cybercav, where she served for 3 years. Returning to New York, Lynx became involved with crime and black ops, establishing a rep for herself. Lynx can be crude and abusive, and her contemporaries have said she's as subtle as a lead pipe. She prefers the traditional biker look, unconcerned with contemporary fashion. This attitude is a residue of her days with the gangs. She hates all Europeans, especially Eurosolos and high riders as well, because she views LEO as a members-only extension of Europe. Lynx is making an honest effort to improve her attitude. She's had most of the cyberware from her gang days removed, and her remaining large-scale cyberware replaced with fresh body parts. Lynx still has her problems. She parties to excess, spending her cash on 20th century drugs. She desperately wants to remember her humanity, but keeps getting dragged down by the situation. Only time will tell if she will rise above her past or die trying. Krista Margaret, the bounty hunter. Coming from Eastern European stock, Krista served with the US Army for 4 years, during which she made lasting friendships and had a few affairs with some of the fellow soldiers in her company. Upon leaving the army, she drifted into the Steel Rats nomad pack, spending 2 years with them and rising to a position of some respect. Returning home to Los Angeles, she made a friend in the LAPD who showed her around the streets and made her realize that her talents could be of use to the general public, so she became a bounty hunter. Unfortunately, this led her into a head-on collision several years later with a large US corporation, which took offense to her shutting down one of her black ops. The corporation framed her for a killing and got her hunter's license revoked for a year. Though her standing was soon regained, Krista remains angry about the situation. She's undecided about a response, but is willing to handle any street action that will bring a little trouble to the corporation in question. Krista took on the dangerous job of bounty hunting initially to make ends meet, but developed a taste for the danger and excitement that came with the jobs. She learned on the streets to walk softly and carry an automatic weapon, meaning she tries to give the air of being a bimbo, wearing clothing that would be considered a liability in most combat situations, like revealing miniskirts and high heels. She uses this to her advantage, being able to surprise opponents with this completely brainless look. Crowman. No one really knows much about Crowman before he started working as a bouncer in a seedy club that catered to the more violent music lover. Obviously from a military background, he refuses to discuss his earlier life, saying he was only born recently when he became a Borg. Since his arrival, he has quickly built a reputation as either already being mad or about to go completely cyber-psychotic. He seems to have spent considerable money on his chroming and body sculpting. It was designed by the renowned Eiji of Tokyo, probably borderline psychotic before becoming a body-plated colossus. His remaining personality has become weirder and more violent. Crowman's major trait is the murderous rage he goes into if his body job is scratched. He has been known to kill members of 2 competing gangs because he walked into the middle of their firefight and got hit by a stray round. Not usually receptive to jobs, even he must eat, and therefore takes any job offered to him, regardless of what it entails. Crowman likes to get in close to his opponents, using his brute strength and rippers to literally tear them apart. While on a job, he ignores any orders given to him if there is a direct method of accomplishing the mission instead. This often leads to the death of his opposition and his fellow companions. The Nutter, aka Jean-Claude Morro. Coming from a non-corporate sponsored Canadian arcology, undereducated and always bored, Jean could see nothing in his immediate future. After he and his brothers and sisters were thrown out of the family apartment when their mother died, they split up and Jean-Claude joined the USMC. There he learned something very well: combat. After 2 tours of duty, he left the Marines and joined a small firm specializing in corporate security. His air of professionalism quickly got him the high-risk bodyguard jobs, and his success at these contracts meant that he has several corporates owing him their lives. Jean-Claude is quite happy to hold on to that debt, deciding to retire after 5 years in the business. He is looking for an occasional high-risk job to keep him sharp and interested in life. Nutter found that when bodyguarding, the ability to intimidate people can work better than killing them. Remembering the countless hours of anime he watched in the archaeology, he realized that a large, fire-breathing dragon usually intimidates everyone except the most determined people. He poured almost all his cash reserves into a dragon body enhancement, with all the combat bonuses and therapy he could afford, and has never regretted the decision. His built-in body weaponry, the claws, combat tail and flamer, has saved himself on numerous occasions when the opposition thought that he was unarmed. Mihoshi Oni. Mihoshi Oni joined the Yakuza and was taught all the combat skills she would need to survive the rough streets. Showing her eagerness for the act of killing, she was soon awarded most of the wet work that needed doing. As she got older, she was taught by several masters of the sword and the skill of silent movement. Mihoshi was an apt pupil and soon became an expert in these older combat arts. Having been implicated twice for murder in the course of her various missions, she was spirited away to avoid arrest by the authorities and quietly retired from the Yakuza. They do not see her as unconnected, but Mihoshi is now building a separate reputation for herself as a Yojimbo, which means bodyguard. This hasn't led her into conflict with her ex-bosses yet. Always brought up to do the best that she could, Mihoshi tries to excel at everything she does. She has a very competitive streak, and this sometimes leads to her showing off when this would be stupid and potentially disastrous. Looking for ways to showcase her talents, she seeks the most difficult of missions so that her skills and intellect will be tested to the limit. She truly believes that the only way to prove your worth is to put your life on the line. Enjoying the thrill of the chase, Mihoshi will play with minor opponents, lulling them into mistakes and then punishing them. With more resourceful opposition, she quickly removes them. A loner, she prefers to split off from a group to do her own work. She likes getting in close and using her swords to finish an opponent off. Electric Angel, aka Sarah Mitchell. Brought up with computers, Sarah was immersed in the jargon of the information communication highway, and her family's various jobs with these systems for the emerging multinational corporations. She went away to university to study computers, but her interests lay in other fields, and she quickly dropped the computer studies for a media course. She excelled but kept returning to the area of computing and found herself reporting on the explosion of the net onto the world scene. She was in the right place at the right time, having the experience to be able to understand the net and the skills to communicate it to the general public. This brought her to the attention of Network 54, and they proceeded to seduce her into a long-term contract with them for a net-based news show called Angel Hour, which became one of the most watched non-fiction shows on Network 54, particularly in the UK, where it's often banned. A carefree and easygoing young woman, she sees herself as making sure that the net is accessible to all to use, not just a few corporate elite. She rationalizes her selling out to Network 54, and on the basis that they give her the freedom to do her thing without shackling her to the Network 54 company line. Originally starting as a solo reporter, she prefers to work with no one else. This has led her into dangerous and potentially lethal positions, only getting the story out through luck, chance, and some good friends. She can be very manipulative and will use almost any means to get her story, especially if it's corp related. Mariko Sonomi. As the daughter of a Japanese businessman, Mariko wanted to please, but school was just so boring. She barely graduated from her prestigious high school and went to college in America. There, her people skills led her to a media relations degree, but her tendency to flirt gave her no real experience to anchor a resume on. Mariko's skill with people was quickly recognized, and her boss made her a proposition. She could earn a lot of money if she helped them acquire a rival corp's senior researcher. Mariko, crushed by her father's condemnation, agreed. If she could prove herself, maybe her father would relent. Mariko's first recruiter job was somewhat perilous and with a few ethical quandaries, but successful. She was next asked to get some information out of another businessman. So her career began. The corporation folded 2 years later, but by then, Mariko had positioned herself to enter the freelance world. She circulates in the right social circles and frequently dates. She never gives any sign whether she's targeting them, so people are never sure whether she's recruiting and when it's just reaction. Mariko relies on her skills as a seductress, not as a thief, but has developed other skills to facilitate her job. As a recruiter, her job is to seduce researchers, high-level management, and other key employees from one corporation to another. The actual extraction is the job of a team of professionals. She gets her mark to trust and confide in her, letting her into their homes and offices, where she can get at their secrets. She has been known to use blackmail, but only rarely, as she finds it distasteful. Mariko is a tall, slender Japanese woman with short black hair and a classic, ageless beauty. She is extremely physically fit and can handle herself in a fight. China Doll grew up in a safe corporate housing estate, the daughter of a low-level corp worker. The corporate school taught her to respect her parents, other people, and the corporation above all others. Happy in this microcosm, she quickly became a skilled photographer and seemed happiest around people. Earmarked for a place in a corp's PR department, she was fast-tracked into a corporate-sponsored university to study public relations. While there, she realized that the corporate-fed media only reported a small slice of the actual news, and she began to take unauthorized trips to see the streets for herself. There, she learned that the corporations had a tyrannical grip over their employees and started to put an anti-corp slant into her stories. These minor items were picked up mostly by pirate stations. Continuing her studies, she passed with honors and was offered a place in the PR department of her sponsor corporation. To their surprise, she turned them down and went freelance with several smaller networks, developing a taste for gritty street stories with a corporate slant. She learned the necessary skills to keep her out of trouble. Her former corporate sponsor was not pleased by this turn of events, but can do nothing until she makes a mistake. China is a disillusioned woman who saw all her early values exposed as merely corp policy drummed into her as a child. She has made new friends in her new world, but still misses her family, and is angry that her father's corporation will not allow her to see them for security reasons. Deciding to enjoy her life to the fullest, she is a frequent customer of nightclubs. There she can unwind and keep her ear out for any gossip that could lead to a story. By picking up on the said gossip and following up on any possible leads generated means she's always working and not always getting a story in return. However, the fact that she can enjoy herself at the same time, sometimes on others' money, makes this her preferred way of operating. She uses people for both pleasure and information, usually at the same time. Dr. Snoopy. Born to a middle-rank criminal family, Snoopy was protected from his family's dealings, and family profits were used to send him to a university to study medicine. However, he was suddenly dragged into the family's work when his parents were killed by a rival crime chief. Not long afterwards, he realized the money-making potential of his skills. His first attempt at designer drug production led quickly to arrest and imprisonment for 2 years, where he learned to refine his methods and some harsh lessons in survival. With the last of his family's money, he bought his parole and some useful cyberware. Leaving prison to make his way on the street, he began acting as a ripperdoc under the childhood pseudonym of Dr. Snoopy. Upset that his entire early life was a tissue of lies, Dr. Snoopy has no respect for himself or others, seeing everyone as tools to use so he can better himself. He has become a doctor who is willing to take risks with his own and others' lives, caring nothing for the pain of his patients or whether a person dies under his knife. The one dream he still clings to is to control his own large-scale drug laboratory, making products for his own use and for street sale. He will betray anyone or any ideal to reach this dream, regardless of any future backlash on himself or anyone else. Dr. Snoopy has become widely known as a ripperdoc who, through brutal in practice, is willing to perform any operation with no interest in the usage of his work afterwards. Cyberdog, born into a nomad pack. The young man grew up never knowing for sure which members were his parents. As he got older, he was chosen by the chief techie of the pack as an apprentice and began to learn the intricacy of maintaining the pack's cyberware. However, the two main loves of his life became explosives and looking after the pack dogs. Cyberdog trained the pack's animals to act as perimeter guards. Along the way, he started designing and implanting modified cyberware into the dogs to improve them. At age 17, his nomad group was ambushed by operatives of an unknown corporation. They were killed almost to the last person. The only survivor was Cyberdog and his vengeance. He began a life on the streets and continued his experiments with cyber-enhanced dogs. His expertise in both repairs and cyberware quickly made him a leader in the field and gained him several acquaintances, including police and corporates alike. Corporate, who became a regular customer, eventually found out about his quest for vengeance and used it as bait to lure Cyberdog into working for Militech's research department. Given all the equipment and money he needed, Cyberdog quickly developed the cyberware now used in Militech's K9 guards. But he was also working on another project which he kept secret from the Corp. They eventually discovered the secret project's existence, and when they refused to tell him which corporation had attacked his old family, he seemed to give in and agreed to tell them about the new project. He demonstrated his Cerebus project the next day by having a Cyberform Greyhound unit run up to the crowded observation enclosure and detonate in front of the blackmailing executive. During the confusion, he slipped away from the facilities and returned to the streets, taking the design of his new blast hounds with him. Cold and detached, his main motivation is to find out who arranged the wiping out of his pack and why. Cyberdog maintains a false friendly relationship with everyone so that he can use them later to get information or to help in pursuit of his revenge. Only when someone is of no use to him anymore will he show his real feelings. He either sells his blast hounds for use or hires out his expertise in a range of fields to whomever needs it, except corporations.